EPTA was formed exactly 12 years ago, right here at IDX. By example, Don Wilson set it up in Chicago, the EPTG, and we had the idea of setting it up, but it really helped that it was already under the FIA. So we approached the FIA as well, and it was slam dunk with Marianne Burns and John Demgaard to basically set it up in 2011 in June. But interesting enough, I was on the train to the famous Bergenstock conference in 2007, where I met with a partner from Optiver. And he said we should really be a voice, joint voice, and we should try and gather others from our industry. And that was 2007. So it took us still 4 years to initiate it. But with credit to Remco Lenterman, who said, we're now setting this up, otherwise it will never get off the ground. See the change coming. So the floors were absolutely efficient, were outstanding, really great liquidity on floors, but ultimately to grow it, the pits are limited, the data you can't share in a microsecond, let alone a nanosecond these days, what we do. So we had to enter a new era. And I think with electronic trading, we saw that was possible with thanks from DTB, Deutsche Terminbörse and Eurex. But we needed new technology and exchanges had to adapt. So as a newcomer, now Eurex was an easy one, but the incumbents had to change from floors to electronic trading. And I can share many stories about the change, but that took a while, but I think the cake grew tremendously. And we changed the business, as in it became electronic. So you can now trade virtually every second of the day in all these products with deep liquidity. Whereas before you need to go to the floor, people had to be there. It was a good change, and I'm a number-driven guy, and I like to get data on the record in a database, share with the regulator, transparency. It's way more transparent. We found out in sharing data than a bunch of guys on the floor. Come from a macro perspective and speaking for Europe, that includes Britain for me still. I think we're really between the US and the Chinese developments, whereby we are lacking a lot of innovation in Europe. The regulation is such that parties are not really liked to enter Europe anymore. We're shooting ourselves a lot more in the foot by not getting the right people in, not the right companies. So if you don't list companies here as in the primary markets, we can never trade them in the secondary markets, and they will never end up in an index. And if you always wonder why the US indices are better performing, well, they mulch over newer companies. And the DAX is a good example whereby a lot of financial companies are in there and not a lot of tech companies. And as an investor, as an asset manager, where did you get your best yield from? Well, it's definitely in the US and not in Europe. So I'm nervous that we will be squeezed out. On a more micro level, the companies I've represented at EPTA, the market makers, the liquidity providers, the independent liquidity providers, so non-banks who trade with their own capital, can, as everyone else, use their capital only once. And if you're that restricted in using capital in Europe, where would you go? You go elsewhere. This is a retirement from EPTA, but certainly not a retirement, complete retirement. I'm involved in obviously other businesses. I'm a chair of a CTA in Rotterdam. So the INET positions I will continue to have. I was on the Aquis board for 10 years, which has stopped, Aquis Exchange. I mean, those one or two more will obviously come at some stage. But I will also focus on the charity. We have an interest in breast cancer research, phase 1 and phase 2. And with the help of people in our industry, in the financial industry, who work with terabytes of data, we can help data analysis. So coming out of pathologists and oncologists, we get a lot of data, whether it's tissue or blood data. And it's absolutely wonderful that with our expertise, and I'm not a data engineer, but with the help of people in our industry who are devoted to this, and their companies allow them to spend time on, can work on building GUIs, analyzing the data, and help that research forward. Certainly AI, I mean, that's big. I've been involved in an AI project with most students for years now, whereby we simply take in Eurex data. We used to buy it and just keep melting it over. I think that's a great example of another transition from the floor to algorithmic trading, one transition, and then from algorithmic trading to machine learning or AI. We were involved in the 90s already in neural networks. Sure, made progress, but anything like AI in our business is not happening. The regulators in Europe have put out reports recently. I disagree with them. It's certainly not happening. We're far, far, far away from that intelligence in our markets. The fact that we see glitches and all that, it's got nothing to do with AI. It's a human factor in an algorithm, and the algorithms are straightforward. We can explain them, the humans can explain them. But as much as I liked the automated change to algorithm, I like to change to AI. I think take the human factor out as much as we can, we'll make it more efficient. And all these scary talks about losing jobs and all that, look, that's, I think, for old timers and gray hair people like me. But I ultimately think some of our businesses in 5 years' time will be getting help from AI, but certainly not to the extreme. That's one. The CMU in Europe, I think, is big. Capital Markets Union, that's one we are concerned about. I'm definitely concerned about myself. We need to stay competitive in Europe. So education of people, attracting youngsters to universities. I've been working closely with the Free University in Amsterdam over the years, seen students from them, locals but also foreigners. We need to make sure we start really there with attracting people. That's what I like. I think education is great, and be a team. I learn a lot from youngsters, and I would say the last probably bit is that we still need to work very closely with regulators like we have done, but not in a way like we have a conversation, but share algorithms with them. Invite them over to offices and say, here's the kit, try it yourself. We've done that over the years as EPTA. We've invited many regulators over. We in fact had a session with Eurex and Bloomberg in Brussels, whereby they could make the changes themselves. And those are the best parts of joining forces with the regulation, because if you have so much data, someone is abusing that data for sure. So don't be naive. That collaboration with the regulator, I really, really like.